You shall not judge me by the lack of seriousness today, you shall only judge me by the amount of information, which will be seriously good, or at least something like that. Because I was never known for the quickest reviews out there, but at least I was always known for the very best ones. No, wait, that's not true. So let's finally get to the review of the HyperX Cloud Flight. But before I'm gonna let you know what I think about it, I'm gonna let you know what it is. And that would be a $160 wireless gaming headset, and most importantly, completely gimmick free. You don't need to install any software. There is no silly, in my opinion, unnecessary 7.1 surround sound or anything like that. It's just plug and play, good old stereo, and that's the way it should be. But if all of that has actually turned out the way that they planned to, that's something we're going to find out by looking first of all what we get in the box. Of course, the headset itself with the micro USB cable to charge it and the 1.4 meter long cable, which quality is absolutely fine. It's this rubberized, not all that flexible cable, but it should do the job just fine, especially since most of you actually won't even use it, since after all it's wireless and that's why most people will buy it for. I like the fact that the microphone is completely detachable. It's also very flexible, so you can adjust it wherever you want to, but if you don't want it, just don't use it. And you won't be able to use it if you actually use it wired. This only works wireless. Not quite sure why, but that's just the way they decided to. Now in terms of controls, we have the on and off switch, and also the 3.5mm jack in case you want to use it wired after all. Micro USB to charge it, and for the microphone, here on the left side you can press to mute the microphone. You can here turn it on and actually cycle through the lighting effects, because you have either always on, then breathing, or just turn it off all the time. And on the other side we have a volume wheel, which also only works wireless. The design I think looks quite nice. It's not too bulky or anything like that. It's mostly plastic from the outside, but it feels high quality because, as you can see, very flexible plastic. Nothing really creaks, and it's also rotating, which is quite nice, because on most headphones, if I do this, it's kind of so close together that if I try to look down to the keyboard or something like that, I already touch something. So here I have enough place left. That is something that I definitely know to appreciate. Also, for example, here the padding. It's very, very soft, almost too soft, but thick enough. And you can also see the ear cushions, as you can see here. The pads are big enough, nothing of my ear really touched here on any point, but it feels a little bit shallow because, as you can see, it's soft and it's like kind of fake leather, but it feels like you would touch with your ear here. At least you don't have enough space for some breathing. So if you have them on for a longer period of time, your ears will get quite warm. Not really all that sweaty, but it wasn't all that comfortable for a longer period of time. We can adjust the size here as well, as you can see, and this definitely won't change. This is secure. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure what else to say. Red cable accents, of course, it shows you also left and right. So all good. So let's just put it on and let me tell you what I think about it. I have to say, for the very first moment, it feels incredibly comfortable because the pressure, the clamping force is pretty much absolutely right. It's stiff enough, so it's always secure on. But it's not too hard that it would push, because some people, I still heard that from the comments, thinks it's too stiff or anything like that. I don't see that, especially since the pads are quite soft, but not quite thick enough, because I would wish for them to be thicker so there would be a little bit more breathing room, because it almost feels like it would touch, which is not uncomfortable or anything like that, but it just feels like it will heat up even longer. So after a longer period of time, it felt a little bit claustrophobic, so a little bit kinda closed up. So I didn't like that factor much, but I have to say, the padding on the top and overall comfort is very nice. Fit is also great, but for a shorter period of time, so maybe like every hour or so, you should take them off, let them breathe in a little bit of a while. That should be good. Now in terms of isolation, I have to say really good job done, because it's pretty much just as isolating as well. Now of course, maybe an option like we got on the Cloud with some velour earpads would have been nice for all those people who don't like to sweat that much, especially in the summer. It will be a little bit of an issue, but the isolation is done very well because the seat is very good. Of course, it's closed and the outside world will still hear you, at least the way that I listen to it as loud as I do. But since already talking about the volume, if we use this wireless, there is always a little bit of some minor background hiss, but it's actually obviously noticeable all the time. So I hear it even now. It's turned on, and if there is no signal going on, you hear some white noise. It's not really distracting or anything like that. It's very similar to a noise cancelling headphone. So if you don't bother here in that case, you shouldn't bother here. But if you want complete silence, this is not what you will get. But Let's talk about the volume wired. I have to say wired, of course, if you have a good headphone amp, then you will get more than enough out of it. But wireless, I did not quite get that. And I have already said it so many times. I listen extremely loud, actually insanely loud, and I just didn't get that. I would wish for at least 10-20% more. For music, it's mostly fine. But I know from my experience, from all the reviews that I've done, and from the comments, that most people are absolutely fine with that here. But I also have to mention one thing. If you use it wireless, the quality just isn't the same as with a good headphone amp, because it feels good in terms of quality. Don't get me wrong, the overall balances still feel nice, but once you actually have it on a good stereo amp, a headphone amp, you get just more clarity out of it. The soundstage opens up, you get just better quality, you don't get the hiss. It's just better in every single aspect. And if we would compare it, then it would beat out many headsets at around 100 and a little bit above. Now, wireless, it's still better than most, just because the ones that I've reviewed didn't really impress me so much. Because the good thing, and this is just one thing that I appreciate so much, there is no silly anything going on, no software or anything like that, and I'm really happy with that. They just use the plug and play, plug it in, turn it on, and you have a good stereo headphone. But what about the microphone? So we should definitely check that, and here's the demo.
Okay, so this would be the microphone test of the HyperX Cloud Flight. Let's just start off with the things that I like. First of all, the microphone is detachable, still very important for a lot of people, and it is also very flexible, so it can be adjusted any way you want it to, which is also quite important because too close to your mouth, it seems very sensitive and picks up just a little bit too many sounds that you don't want to get picked up. Now, what about P sounds? Some breathing. Keyboard. The mouse, followed by a few seconds of silence. So overall, I have to say it is a decent mic. It's not maybe the most high quality one. It's not super clean. It also picks up maybe too much sounds that I would not like so much. But what I like is definitely that once you don't do anything, it completely kind of shuts off and you don't hear anything. So there is no kind of background hiss or anything like that. But at the end, it will do the job just fine, but it won't impress anyone just in terms of overall microphone clarity or anything like that, because it sounds a little bit nasally and also not quite that clean. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so that was the demo, and as I said already before, the microphone only works wireless, which is a little bit of a bummer. At least I would have liked for the option. Since most people will use it wireless anyways, it should be fine, and it's decent enough. But now let's get to the important part, since I covered already the basics first. How does it actually sound? Now for games, I have to say the soundstage for a closed one is, at least in this price range, actually quite good. It is though not giving you the same as the best wired ones give, like for example the MX300 or also the Teufel Cage, because those kind of set boundaries. So you feel kind of, if you are for example in Counter-Strike Go, you feel where the whole map ends. You just hear this and you feel it. This is not the thing. What you hear here is, you hear enemies, where they come from. You kind of get roughly the distance, but you don't really feel, is there one wall between you, two walls or three are direct around the corner. This is, don't get me wrong, on a good level for at least all the $100 headphones. If you go higher, like $200 or $300, especially wired, you will get better options or more advantage to hear your opponents, but not just hear them, but be able to locate them. That is one thing that I've noticed on most headsets once we go to the really good ones starting at €200-300 euros, because there it's like you would have a visual map in your head and you would just know by hearing alone where everyone is, and not just roughly the distance and the location. So this is, though I have to say, better than for example like the Cloud Alpha wired though. I would say wireless, it's a little bit behind because there is just lacks a little bit clarity, a little bit soundstage, because everything due to wireless is still a little bit held back, but not much. There is no delay or anything that I've noticed, and that is absolutely fine. So I'm completely pleased with the sound overall. For gaming, it does a good job. What I like is that the bass is quite tight, quite punchy, and even racing games and so on give you a good soundstage. It doesn't sound muffled. It's a nice clear, definitely though gaming sounded signature, because we have elevated bass, we have elevated mids, and it's a nice punchy bass. It's not going too deep, not extending too much, but it is a nice quality one for around 100 if we would see it wired. Now wireless, since all the ones that I've tried were usually going to the other extreme of just delivering too much bass and too much of all of that, you just get way more details here, and that's why I just appreciate the fact that we have stereo here. They didn't try to impress with any effects, with virtual surround sound, which after all is just virtual. Stereo for gamers is still the way to go for, and it does an absolutely fine job, because I could still play on a really nice level. And if you want really more out of that, I think you just have to go wired. I think wireless, you are almost at the limit here. I don't think you will get much more out of it. At least I'm not knowing anything, unless you want to pay noticeably more and then live along with the gimmicky features and so on. Because already talking about the features, the battery life without the lighting, it's 30 hours, and I've tried it, and I actually reached a little bit more than 30 hours with a mix of about 80 to 100%, which isn't quite enough for me, but for most people it will do the job just fine. But with breathing, you only get, at least from the specs given, 18 hours, and with always on 13 hours. I personally would not get the compromise. I would just turn it off because I don't see the lighting anyways, and then 30 hours is absolutely impressive. Now, in case some of you want to know how does it actually work out with music, I have to say it does a really nice job, because already the HyperX Cloud 2 and the HyperX Cloud Flight, the Alpha, do a really nice job at around 100, and these actually are better. If you use them with the proper headphone amp, the sound shed was a little bit bigger, the details were a little bit better, the quality of the bass, the mids and the highs were just better. The sound signature was very similar, it just felt a little bit more detailed, a little bit more structured, a little bit more depth in that. And this is why I can definitely recommend it. For a price of $160, they completely focused on the important parts, like good ergonomics, the buttons and all that. You just get what you need. You don't get any extras. You get the detachable mic. That quality-wise, I would say, is decent, good enough. I still would wish for a little bit more clarity, a little bit of a cleaner sound, a little bit of a more high quality sound, but I guess it will do the job just fine. After all, you have to consider it's wireless. And from the wireless ones, this is definitely the only one that now I can fully recommend. If you want a little bit more action, or action-packed games, you will still need to go for something like the Logitech G933, which just has this amazing bass, but not nearly anything of the clarity and the balanced sound. Because even though this is sounded V-shaped, it is very nicely balanced, especially since this is more focused towards gaming than anything else. But most mainstream also music listeners will also be fully satisfied. And I have to say, it's nice to have something wireless in this kind of quality, which I usually didn't get, because for the other ones you pay at least like $50 extra just for the gimmicks, for the software and so on. So I'm kind of glad that they decided to just give you what you need, and then just for that price that you pay, focus on what you would actually appreciate in terms of sound and in terms of comfort and all that. Even though I have to say, long-term comfort, just because of the ear pads being very thin, if you don't really bother too much about it, or if you just maybe replace the pads because they are replaceable, yeah, absolutely. They are better than the Alpha, they are better than the Cloud 2, maybe not by too much. And if you don't care about the wireless functionality, you maybe should not pay $50-$60 more for. But if you want wireless, yeah, you get that. Even though you have to consider that wireless, maybe it's not better anymore. Then it's pretty much just on par. But I'm pleased, I'm happy. I'm not overly overblown, because I still kind of prefer on quality over features, which in this way wireless would be. And to be fully satisfied in the wireless department, I would still wish for a little bit more. If they would sound like they do wireless with a little bit more volume, then absolutely yes. But for anyone else who's not me, who listens to, let's say, reasonable amounts of volume, this is nice. This is nice. And this review, was it nice? I don't know. You tell me. Okay, until next time. Bye.